was feeling stressed at uni today, so I came home because even when I'm stressed, I still need to eat. And I made a waffle with yogurt, berries, and maple syrup. So I'm at home today. I haven't been feeling great, and I don't know if it's psychosomatic or what, because I'm feeling pretty anxious, like I think a lot of people are at the moment. So I'm being cautious and staying home. I haven't really been able to focus on work today. I'm just trying to tell myself that that's okay, and I'm gonna record this video instead. I've written a few blog posts recently about feeling anxious and stressed and how that relates to anorexia and my recovery. And I think it's especially relevant now. Before, I was feeling stressed mainly about grad school and relationships, and now I'm like everyone, I'm just anxious about other things that are going on. My first instinct when I'm stressed is to resort to old coping mechanisms, basically to restrict my food or exercise. Those have always been my go-to anxiety reducing coping mechanisms, but unfortunately in the long term they don't work, and I can't keep using those coping mechanisms because that's just how I end up in my eating disorder and end up relapsing. For example, with restricting my food, when I feel stressed, I immediately get thoughts like, well, you don't have time to eat, so just skip your lunch and just do your work, and that will make you feel better. Why don't you try to lose a bit of weight, because at least that's something that you can control, and it will make, and when everything else in your life feels out of control, and it will make you feel a little bit better to see the number go down on the scale, so just eat a little bit less. But restricting my intake does not help with stress. It's hard because in the moment sometimes it does make me feel a little bit better, because when I'm hungry then I can't focus on what I'm actually stressed about. I just end up thinking about food instead. But then what also comes with that is a headache and tiredness, feeling grumpy and irritated, and stronger eating disorder thoughts at my next meal or the next day when it comes to eating that meal that I'd skipped the day before. Restriction is always just a really temporary fix. So I might feel better for like an hour, and then the anxiety returns, and then I'll just go back to another eating disorder behavior to reduce that anxiety, and it just ends up in a cycle of anxiety, eating disorder behavior, anxiety returns, another eating disorder behavior, and so quickly I'd end up in a relapse situation. There is really never any option to restrict my food. I still have to eat normally, even when I'm anxious. And with exercise, it's a similar thing. It's a short-term fix. So I remember when I'm feeling anxious and I go to exercise, I sometimes feel better when I'm exercising. It's a temporary distraction, but it is very temporary. It's fleeting, and then after I exercise, the anxiety pretty much immediately returns, and I don't know what to do except go back and exercise again. And so it's basically just another eating disorder behavior, and it acts in the same way. Anxiety, exercise. Anxiety returns, exercise again. And that's not sustainable, because your body needs rest, and you need to be able to sit with uncomfortable emotions like anxiety without resorting or without using exercise all the time. For some people, they can use exercise as a coping mechanism in addition to other coping mechanisms, so they don't feel the need to exercise all the time. They do other things as well to manage their stress, and exercise is just something additional that aids their health. But for someone who struggled with exercise addiction, it's a very slippery slope for me. And especially today, I'm not feeling that great. I'm pretty tired, and going to the gym or going for a run, it's not what I feel like doing, and it's not what my body needs. So then the question is, what can you do when you're feeling anxious or stressed if you can't use your old coping mechanisms that are really well worn in my brain, and I now have to do a lot of opposite action to overcome those and try and develop some alternative strategies that will make me feel better? What I've been trying to do instead of restricting my food or exercising is doing different things like reaching out to people, talking with friends and family, and that doesn't have to be in person, can also be through phone calls or messaging, using sensory things. So like right now I've got this blanket wrapped around me, which just feels kind of comforting. Other things that work well are like heating packs, or you could play with Play-Doh or something. Trying to distract myself by reading, taking a bath. I baked cookies earlier.
I made cookies. Chocolate chip.
I'm also wrapped up in a blanket because I'm doing everything that I can to reduce my anxiety, except for restricting my food, and also not gonna exercise as a coping mechanism.
Got my therapy cat here.
So that I have nice food to eat that I want to eat, that is somewhat appealing even when my appetite is a bit reduced. I tend to not feel as hungry when I'm anxious, but I know that I still need to eat, so trying to make things that sound a bit nicer. Getting out in nature is quite nice if you can do that. Last weekend I went to the gardens with my sister and my family, which was really nice. Nice to get out in the sun. Today it's raining, so it's not such a good idea.
Oh, no.
Also journaling as well helps a lot. And for me, I know that it's important that I use a variety of coping strategies as well. So not just distracting myself, but also doing things that allow me to process my feelings and recognize how I'm feeling as well. So talking or journaling are things that really help me with that, because if I just distract myself, then I end up suppressing what I'm feeling, and it's easy to then end up doing some eating disorder behavior because I haven't recognized that I'm having eating disorder thoughts and that what I'm doing is an eating disorder behavior, if that makes sense. So it's really important that I do something that helps me process my anxiety, like writing blog posts, like this video, and then after that I can distract myself by watching Netflix or something like that. Also, just acknowledging that anxiety is temporary, stress is temporary, this situation is not going to last forever. And now more than ever, it's important that you take care of yourself and keep nourishing your body, because undernourishing yourself is not going to help anything. So if you're feeling anxious or feeling stressed, please try hard not to resort to old eating disorder coping strategies, because they are maladaptive. They're not going to help in the long term. Think of who you want to be in the future. Think about the long-term effects of you engaging in those behaviours. Write a pros and cons list if you need to. The pros of recovery, the cons of restriction. I used to do that all the time at the start of my recovery, and I still do it sometimes. It really helps a lot. Try your best. Okay, take care. Lots of love to you, and I'll record again soon. Bye.